Today, let's find out if coaching is the same thing as therapy and if these two can be used interchangeably. Since there are many psychologists who specialize in professional coaching, no wonder that so many people ask what the differences are between these two forms of development. I've come across situations when people totally confused these two. They went to a coach and what they really wanted or what they really needed to get was therapy. And if the coach we went to is the same person as a therapist, there is no big deal, there is no big problem. So is coaching the same thing as therapy? Let's find out. Problems start if your coach is not a trained psychologist and is not able to recognize where coaching should end and the therapy should begin. This could be a situation dangerous for your health, and this is why today I have decided to explain the main differences between therapy and coaching. While there are many different schools of therapy, which can be quite different one from another, most of them, they have one thing in common. They have therapeutic effect on the patient. They treat medical, mental, psychological conditions that the patient is struggling with. In the therapy, we treat people. In coaching, there should be no therapy. Coaching is not to treat a mental or psychological condition. Coaching does not work on an underlying problem in our lives. Rather than that, coaching works on goals that the coachee or the client has. Some of the therapies I've mentioned, they work on solving old or quite recent and new problems we've experienced. Sometimes it's a life trauma and PTSD, sometimes some other experiences. Some patients need help dealing with some current difficulties they are experiencing. In other words, we could say that therapy is more focused on the past and the present. And how about coaching? Since coaching is goal-oriented, naturally it should be more focused on the future and the present too. But definitely not on the past. While in some cases the patient is able to name their actual problem, in most situations it is the job of a therapist to diagnose the person. The therapist should be able to precisely say what the condition is the patient struggling with. In coaching, where we usually do not deal with conditions, it is the coachee who describes something that is their goal. In other words, the goal will never depend on the coach, and it should always be described by the coachee. The coach can only, and maybe should, make it easier for the coachee to make their goal smart as possible. While there are many types of therapies that take long time to work, there are some which give quicker effects. But in both of these situations, it is the patient who can ask the therapist how long the therapy will be. And the therapist will be able to provide an approximate duration of the therapy. Just please do not expect a very fixed deadline for that. This could be extremely difficult to tell. But in coaching, it is the role of the coach to ask how much time the coachee or the client give themselves to achieve their goal. In other words, the duration of the coaching process depends solely on the coachee. And the deadline should be fixed and very precise as it can get, particular date and time. So as you can see, there are some pretty important differences between coaching and therapy. Also, the requirements that coaches and therapists need to meet are very different, and the level of expertise is different too. This is why it's so important not to confuse these two. Of course, besides all of these differences I've mentioned, there are some similarities too. As I mentioned, many psychologists, they are also coaches. Both development types require a good relationship between the specialist and the client. They both are based on knowledge of psychology. However, here the depth of knowledge is totally different. And what is your experience with coaching and therapy? Have you ever used any one of these? And have you ever considered becoming a specialist in either one of these areas? Let us know in the comments section below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel just to make sure that you will receive information about all my latest videos. And I'll speak to you next time.